welcome back to my channel. For those who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrada and I make videos about infertility, pregnancy journey. Now I'm documenting my pregnancy, and hopefully I'm going to be making videos about motherhood. If you enjoyed this type of content, keep on watching and consider subscribing, maybe even giving a like or thumbs up. So whatever. Today I wanted to talk about my first trimester of pregnancy. If you see me drinking anything at any point, sipping, that's just Coke, because number one, I enjoy it. Number two, I have to drink coffee. I hate coffee, and I need to have my blood pressure up so I don't pass out. There we go. So, but I absolutely enjoy it, and it's good that I like something that is caffeinated. Enough about blabbering. Let's go back to the video. I'm going to talk about some of the symptoms that I experienced, and not just symptoms, things that have happened in my first trimester and how it went, how I felt about it, and all of that. Because the first trimester, even the second trimester, right now I'm in my second trimester, I'm 26 weeks pregnant, I have a bump. I think you already seen it. Here is my bump, and we're doing well. Basically, first trimester was full of emotions. I was so happy. We were so happy. We were scared. We were anxious. We were full of, like expecting and expectance and everything beautiful and scary and everything in between. We've experienced it during that time. And if you ask me right now, while pregnant, while still experiencing some of the things, I would go back and do it all over again and not regret it. Because even during the worst experiences, during the worst symptoms, during the worst moments, I was so grateful to be pregnant. And I was like, Lord, just thank you so much for giving me the joy and the privilege to carry this little human that it's growing inside of me. And it humbled me and made me, that makes me so emotional now. It made me so grateful, and I would be grateful every single time when I needed to throw up or anything. Let's start with the beginning, because it is actually right from the beginning. Only a few days, maybe a week after I got my positive test, my first positive test, the nausea has started. At the beginning, it was pretty mild, and it wasn't anything that bothered me that much, but I would notice is there. It was just a constant feeling that I had of like, I'm gonna be sick, but I'm not sick. Something, it's like when you eat something and it just doesn't sit well with you. That's how I felt, but it wasn't that bad that I needed to throw up or anything. And it was mostly here and here, the feeling. I was like, okay, well, it's good that it's that way. Soon after this happened, I experienced some spotting and light bleeding. And if you remember, the story of my miscarriage is exactly how it went down. It started with spotting, and a few days later I ended up in the emergency room and contractions started, and I had, I had lost the baby. And the thing that made me really worried this time, it was that it was constant, and it was over a few weeks that it happened. And at the same time, it was accompanied by episodes of fainting. I did not faint because I know my body really, really well. I fainted many times while in the past, but because of that, I was aware of all the symptoms and what happens right before you pass out, and I was able to contain it and nothing bad has happened. I would be maybe standing, doing dishes or doing something, light things. I did not do many things, but all of a sudden I would feel like I start to get hot and really sweaty. I couldn't hear that well. My vision was black, got like really black, and a heavy head. I was like, oh no, I need to sit, I need to lay. And each time I would lay down, it went away. But I needed about half an hour to resume my normal activities because it was, that intense. And I had these episodes throughout the pregnancy and still followed me now into the second trimester. But then it got really scary because they were accompanied by spotting and by light bleeding. So I called the clinic and I talked to my doctor and I asked this is what's happening. What can we do? And is there anything that we can do? First thing she did is she upped my progesterone. I was taking progesterone twice a day in 2 different ways. I was taking them like orally and also vaginally. And she upped it to 3 times a day. We did that. And she said, it would be better if I went on bed rest for at least 2 months. She would suggest the entire first trimester just to be sure if I have the possibility. And of course, that's what I did. My husband was such a sweetheart and he found solutions to absolutely everything. He had to be at work. My mom is far away and I don't have many people here that I would feel comfortable to have them in the house while I don't feel well. My husband found solutions, which it was that he brought our bed into the living room, removed the couch, put the bed in there, and our living room is open space connected with the kitchen, so that allowed me to have easy access to the kitchen, which especially the fridge, because I had to keep my water in the fridge, so I constantly have it cold, and I would need lemons because at this point the real nausea kicked as well. So on top of those things, nausea with actual throwing up episodes started. At the beginning, I would throw up 3-4 times a day, but then it got to a point where it was over 20 times every single day. Whatever I would drink or eat, it would go out. Luckily, I was still able to eat, even though I had to throw up. Not eating making it worse, eating was bad. So neither way was good, but by not eating, my nausea would get worse. At the same time, it would make me even more lightheaded. So we did that. So my husband put that thing there. I was able to reach the restroom a lot easier from where the bed was. So I had access to everything a lot easier. And when he left at work, he prepared everything. He left everything at my hand reach, like the water bottle, and everything. And then for the refills and everything was in the fridge and so on. And it was an intense period of time, but it worked. So while I was on bed rest, spotting and the bleeding has stopped completely. Whenever I would try to, incorporate a little bit more of movement, because also just sitting or laying in bed is not really good for you. You need the blood moving to get to the uterus and all that. So it's a contradiction. You need to lay, but at the same time, you need to move. So yeah, I was trying to do that, but whenever the bleeding would come back. The thing is, I never had an subchorionic hematoma or anything. Everything looked well. Everything looked good because I did have ultrasounds. Maybe it had something to do with my thyroid because we were trying to keep it on track and all that. I don't know what it was. The doctors don't know exactly what it was. Sometimes it happens. They say it is very common, but definitely not normal. Any bleeding in pregnancy is not normal, but it can happen and it can be very common at the same time. The funny thing is, it wasn't funny. It was, even though throwing up was not easy, especially that many times a day. And maybe this will get TMI, but my body would not be satisfied with just throwing up once. The moment I started throwing up, it was throwing up until there was nothing left inside, until, you could feel like almost the guts are coming out by throwing up, because there was nothing left, not even foam, not even gastric juice or anything. Like, there was nothing left. It was just a sensation. Until my body was absolutely sure there is nothing left, I could not stop. And I can't say how many times I would be doing that thing while sitting on top of the toilet, and did that 20 times a day. It was really difficult. But that assured me that things are also going well, like my ACT is raising and all of that, and I kept it very positive. But what was really interesting is that God had made me so grateful for that and for every single symptom. And while throwing up, I was like, thank you, God. Thank you, Lord, for allowing me to experience this. Other women do this easily. For me to get at this point, it's been so hard, and it would be so unfair. I would be so ungrateful to complain about this. So I did not complain, not even in my head. And I was happy to be throwing up, if that makes sense. Of course, I wasn't happy to be throwing up, but I was happy because of the circumstances that I was in and what I was experiencing. While I was on bed rest and in between those things, because headaches started and I wasn't experiencing a lot of exhaustion or tiredness, maybe because I was on bed rest. But sometimes I did experience that. I had a few days when I needed to sleep all day long, but it wasn't that much in the first trimester. That did not happen that much. But the headaches started, and also hip pain, and that's because I was laying constantly in bed and all the positions were not comfortable. I was trying to lay on one side and then on the other one. I even laid on my back. I know it's not recommended necessarily, well, at least from the second trimester, but for me, I knew that I needed to be laying on my back as well, because, being in bed all day, it's complicated, and I would be sitting in bed with tons of pillows and all that, try to be comfortable, but it would get really, really bad, and I got back aches, hip pains, and muscle pains. It was all sort of like, I felt like old, and yeah. While I was on bed rest, there was an event that happened in Romania, in my home country, and I needed to attend that event, and I was asking my doctor for the permission to go there, especially because we would have traveled by car, and it's about 12 hours drive, and I asked for the permission, and she said yes, I could go, just to make sure that I'm still resting and not doing that many things, especially while I'm there, and just to make sure that I stop every 2 hours to, stretch my legs and all of that. the throwing up has intensified a lot more the moment we got home, and that's all I've been experiencing. But baby was always measuring ahead, which is great. I've had many ultrasounds and always the baby was a bit larger. Basically, that's what I had as symptoms wise and experiences in my first trimester. Vivid dreams started, and yeah, I had a lot of symptoms, but to me, like what it was the lightheadedness, the low blood pressure that contributed to the lightheadedness, the spotting, bleeding, and the nausea, extreme nausea, headaches, and hip, back aches, like those things were what actually happened. And after the bed rest, I would get really, really tired. Whenever I tried to do something, I would get tired so easily. And maybe that's because I was in bed all the time and my body was not used to do any sort of movement at that point. So that's what I experienced. This is what I experienced in my first trimester and how it went. I am still grateful for that time, and I would do it all over again for multiple times if I had to, just to get to this point, to have our bundle of joy, hopefully very, very soon. Can't believe that we could meet our baby in 10 weeks from now. I mean, if the baby decides to come early, hopefully not earlier than that, but like in 10 weeks we could potentially meet our baby. But if not, 14 weeks and the baby should be here. So yeah, that's quite interesting. So this is my first trimester, what I experienced, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.